My name is Genesis B. I am an art activist based in Biloxi, Mississippi. I started painting really recently, so my first love is music. I started rapping when I was about 14, releasing music at 15 and performing like stage after stage after stage, just expressing how I felt. You know, as a kid I was really quiet and hip hop gave me my voice. And when I started to do poetry and actually perform my raps, I realized other people feel similarly, and I didn't feel as alone in the world when I was rapping. And so, yeah, that gave me my superpower, and I started painting just about 3 years ago. I had never picked up a paintbrush, but I did this protest that went viral in 2016, and it was scary because I got a lot of support, but a lot of backlash because it was about the Mississippi state flag and speaking out against Confederate Heritage Month. So I had a lot of backlash, and I kind of was a recluse, you know, after that for a couple months. And that is when I started painting my exhibit. It's called People Not Things. And I just started painting barriers, and that's kind of what these are. I just started painting barriers because I couldn't see the barriers between myself and the people who were harassing me online.
I used to think Mississippi operated in a vacuum, but I realize now it doesn't. See, Mississippi is a microcosm of a nation. Police exoneration and mass incarceration. Black and brown bodies a commodity. Mothers separated from babies, border policy. Our White House is painted in the Klan's ideology. Our leadership is exploiting white poverty, keeping us separate and divided. Gay versus straight, white versus black, based off of fear and far from the facts. See, I hail from a state called the mighty Mississippi. Our state flag holds the stars and bars, praising a brutal history. It flies in front of schools and in my judge's court, sending a clear message to us, our lives are not important. Cause my dad was only 5 when the Klan drive by, bust bullets into his house with 6 children inside. And these are the truths they choose to deny.
And then it just hit me. The barriers were the isms. It was the racism, the sexism, it was the homophobia. All of these constructed barriers that we as humans put between us, race, gender, sexuality. And it just led to an epiphany, and that's what brought me out of my reclusive state. And I started to have discussions and dialogue with people who were on the opposite side of the bridge, you know, neo-Confederate folks, people who really honored their ancestors who were Confederate soldiers, and like just having that dialogue and trying to find common ground. You know, I knew what I wanted. I wanted the flag to be changed because that symbol represented a lot of torture and pain and castration under that particular banner, you know. Something that definitely didn't represent me as a Mississippi citizen. So the painting really just was my therapy and was a conduit for me to understand what I had this like platform, because the protest went viral, so it was national, international platform. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know exactly what my message was, and so painting is what helped me discover what I wanted to say, what my message is, and my message to the world is people, not things. My favorite thing to paint is actually stick figures that interact with the barriers that, you know, I have a piece called Leap of Faith, The Lonely Collective. The Amorous Tribe is a beautiful red piece with red barriers everywhere, and stick figures just yearning to be next to each other, learning to love, like yearning to love on each other. The Lonely Collective, it talks about these common denominators that all humans have. We all get lonely. We all try to find solace in different things, whether it's, you know, zoning out, substance abuse, binging on television, on dating apps. You know, we all try to find the solace for our loneliness. So, you know, I'm speaking to all of humanity when I make these pieces of like, okay, we all have these differences, but what's the common theme? You know, we all have fear. We all want to love and to be loved. So these pieces are a little more elaborate. They have actual, you know, people or details and mountains, but my favorite pieces to paint are my abstract barriers with stick figures.
I needed to know what were the barriers between myself and these people who were harassing me and calling me homophobic things or misogynistic, racist, the things that they were saying. I couldn't see the barriers, so I started painting them. So the style that you see of these swipes, they're the barriers me trying to create so that I could see the barriers. Just trying to bridge the divide, man. Like our nation is so divided because we're not talking to each other.
With stick figures, you can't tell what race they are or what gender they are. They're just stick figures. And it's the same way that we look at ants. You know, if there's extraterrestrials looking at humans, they're not seeing black human, white human, trans human. They're just seeing humans either being bad to each other or being good to each other. And that's how we see ants, right? So it's all a matter of perspective, of like getting a macro perspective of humanity and how silly it's really gotten, you know, how ridiculous it is that we really fight and treat each other poorly based off of small differences, and we're all part of the same species.
Let me guess, you been thinking about us, something about us, you just can't trust. We see God every time we touch. Our friends bring you up and it's hard to discuss, hard to ignore, hard to deny. When you came by, it was hard to disguise the pain in your eyes. We can't be together right now, but it's good to see you better right now.
I don't know if I exactly tie together my music and my paintings. They're kind of separate things for me. They're just forms of expression, and to me, a large part of my activism is just trying to inspire other people to move, to get out of their own way so they can achieve their own potential to move, to activate, to change themselves so that they can change their family and change their community. And when I say change yourself, like not from a negative aspect, but just always striving to be better and expressing yourself, using your voice, using whatever means of communication you have to tell your story, because I guarantee your story can help somebody. Someone can relate, and not only does that make you feel less alone in the world, it makes the world a less lonely place when you use your voice. And at the very foundation, that's really all it is for me. I know I do a lot and I dabble in a lot. I work with a lot of organizations and foundations and things like that, but at the core, I just want to express myself. I want to live boldly and unapologetically in the hopes that I can give another permission to do the same. That's all it is for me. It's simple. I'm a simple person. Some of my inspiration, it goes far beyond when I was born. Like my grandfather, Reverend Clyde Briggs, was a very inspiring human. If you get a chance to go check him out, go Google him. You know, he was a leader in his community at a time where there was a lot of killings and harassment in Franklin County, Mississippi, from the KKK and law enforcement to try to keep Black folks in their place. And my grandfather, he was a war vet. He came back from World War II. It was like, my people are living as third-class citizens. I just went and fought for this country. So he fought for education reform and rights, voting rights, at a time where that would get you killed. Even just trying to go vote as a Black person would get you killed. And him and his collaborators would make these transportation convoys to and from voting centers in order to protect Black citizens who wanted to go register or go vote. This is the type of inspiration I have, right? Like somebody who's willing to give their all for a vision that not everyone could see. He had no idea his granddaughter would be on these stages and having these platforms and using her voice, but he wanted it to be possible. He did what he could to build a vision, a foundation of a vision that a lot of people couldn't see. So this is my inspiration. Always fighting for the next step, of fighting for a world that you might not be able to fathom. I can fathom it, right? And sometimes not everyone's going to see your vision, but you still fight for it. You still do what you have to do. You might die doing it. My grandfather passed when he was 42 years old. I don't want to focus on his death. I'd rather focus on his life and how it inspired me. He was a preacher as well, so he used his voice to elevate and amplify his community. So with hip hop and music, that's what I do. I use my voice and my mind, my thoughts. I form them in a way. I create a world with my words. I create a world with my paintings, a world that I want to live in. And if I keep projecting that image and that vision into the world, maybe one day the world will be how I think it could be. Maybe humanity can rise to the potential that I believe that it can. So yeah, my grandfather, Reverend Clyde Briggs, was a huge inspiration. I'm in a privileged place right now where I could go anywhere in the world and share my art, share my music, and I've been away for 14 years, but it's because I had that privilege, right, to get out and expand my horizons and learn from so many different people, just get a bigger picture. Not everyone in Mississippi is able to do that or want to do that or financially able to do that, right? So I wanted to come back to my home, especially now that the flag is down, because I feel more welcome in my home. And that was kind of a first step for me to see that my state does want to progress. My state does want to acknowledge the past so that we can create a future together rather than separate. So I was really excited to move back down here. And now that I'm here, I just want to share the resources that I've gained in my travel, the networks that I've made. I want to share that with up and coming activists and creatives in Mississippi so that they also have an opportunity to experience what I have, and make their own way, make their own path through this world, whether they want to stay here or not, but I think a lot of talent leaves the state. And for me personally, I had to leave because I felt stifled and I felt like I couldn't be myself. But now I'm back. Now I'm back because, the younger generation deserves to see somebody who's living unapologetically and boldly and using her voice and her gifts and her talents to try to bring people together. So I came back because I deserve Mississippi. Mississippi deserves me. There's a lot on the horizon that I'm excited about when it comes to my art, my speaking, my activism. Working more closely with Mississippi State University is going to be great. Just building connections and network, and wherever I'm able to serve, I will go. I'll also be doing a lot of traveling internationally. I just came back from Berlin and Paris, and it was the first time I ever went to Europe as an adult. And I want to go back, not to live, but to perform again and show my paintings and do exhibits. Wherever I'm welcome, wherever my art is welcome, I will go, and I love going out into the world, and I love touring because I get to meet people face to face, and people inspire me so much. Like, my passion is people. That's what, I'll meet somebody and hear their story, and it'll make me want to paint something based off of the energy that they gave me. So that's life. That's my life right now. That's what I see for my life in the future until I'm a little old lady, still painting, still spitting my poetry, being inspired by humans, and then transforming that inspiration and putting it back out and mirroring it and projecting it out into the world. And it's just an endless cycle. And that's what excites me. I get up every day knowing that this is my life. My advice to young creators who want to get into painting or rapping or build a career or something more impactful using your gift of art or creation is to just do it. Starting is the hardest. We have all of this negative chatter in the back of our brain, and it's something I still deal with before I start a project, before I do this. I deal with it all the time, but the key is to just start. You don't even have to tell anybody what you're doing, because a lot of time that negative chatter will be amplified by other people questioning, why would you do that? Just sowing seeds of doubt. Get off of social media for a time. Get away from the noise before you start a project, or because you want to be able to hear your own thoughts and reconnect with your own source, whether that's your inner child, if you're religious or spiritual, if it's God, if it's your ancestors. You want to have that quiet time, maybe somewhere in nature. Take social media off of your phone for like a month and do your craft. Get better at your craft. You will find so much comfort and solace, self-love and confidence as you just dive into your craft. Go one song at a time, two paintings at a time. Just keep doing it. You know, I paint every day. I write every day, no fail. Whether it's even in a journal, just writing my thoughts down. That would be my advice to young creatives. Like, just do it. Start.